You have 1 week to move out. My father's voice echoed through the vaulted living room of our Manhattan penthouse. We can't have you embarrassing us anymore, Vanessa. I stood there clutching my worn leather laptop bag, the same bag carrying contracts worth millions. Not that they knew. At 29, I was, in their eyes, a failed dreamer, an underachiever hiding behind screens. My little online project was a family joke, while my younger brother, Ethan, basked in glory as the rising star at our father's empire, Caldwell Global Partners. Dad, if you'd just let me explain what I'm building. Enough, he cut me off, straightening his Hermes tie with surgical precision. Ethan is already senior VP. Your cousin Caroline just joined a top hedge fund, and you sit in that room all day doing God knows what. My stepmother, Lydia, lounging on an ivory sofa, added her trademark cruelty. Really, Vanessa, it's humiliating when people ask what you do. She works from home, she mimicked with a brittle laugh. The neighbors must think you're peddling vitamins on Instagram. If they only knew. My little online project was actually Apex Analytics, one of the fastest growing property intelligence firms in the US. I'd built a proprietary AI engine that could forecast real estate market trends with unmatched precision. But I'd kept everything hidden, operating under a discreet LLC, my name buried deep in legal shields. Fine, I said evenly. I'll be gone in a week. And don't expect a cent from us, my father added coldly. It's time you learned about the real world. I almost laughed. The real world? Last Friday, Apex Analytics closed a $280 million 0-cents deal, securing prime commercial assets across Boston, San Francisco, and Austin. But my family measured success in boardrooms and country clubs, never in silent empires built from scratch. As if on cue, Ethan breezed in, crisp suit, smug smile. Oh, is Vanessa finally leaving? He grinned. Thank God. It's awkward explaining to my colleagues that my sister is, well, unemployed. Lydia snickered. Maybe this will force her to get a real job. Caldwell Global is hiring assistants. I disemboweled, just walked to my room and began packing into silent cardboard boxes. Hours later, as city lights glowed against my window, my phone buzzed. A notification from our AI dashboard. My pulse quickened. Caldwell Global Partners Headquarters. Prime Midtown property. Just listed for acquisition. I stared at the screen, a slow smile curling across my lips. The building where my father reigned, the temple of their arrogance, was up for sale. They threw me out to protect their pride. Soon, they'd pay rent to me. By sunrise, my legal team had wired the deposit. 2 weeks later, I walked into that glass tower, now my tower, and signed the final papers. The receptionist glanced at me curiously. Welcome, Ms. Hartwell. Congratulations on your purchase. My father? He'll find out soon enough, when the lease renewal notice arrives, signed by Vanessa Hartwell, owner. Sometimes, silence is the sharpest blade. They wanted me gone from their world. Instead, I bought it. The current owner, a major real estate trust, was quietly shopping for buyers. I sat on the edge of my sleek glass desk in my penthouse, a slow smile tugging at my lips. Caldwell Global Partners, my father's empire, had leased that midtown skyscraper for nearly 2 decades, their headquarters, their crown jewel, the towering symbol of their power. I opened my laptop and began typing an encrypted email to my legal team. Subject, target acquisition. Asset, Bryant Tower. Current occupant, Caldwell Global Partners. Instruction, discrete execution through shell entity, maintain zero linkage to Apex Analytics. Their perfect little world was about to shatter, and the unsuccessful daughter they cast aside would be the one swinging the hammer. I grabbed my phone and called my executive assistant. Nora, line up a meeting with the REIT's director first thing tomorrow. And one more thing. Every document runs through Atlas Property Holdings. I don't want my name anywhere near this. Understood, she replied smoothly. As I closed the laptop, my eyes landed on a photo of my real mother. The woman who believed in me long before algorithms and balance sheets defined my life. She'd died when I was 12, leaving me to Lydia's cold ambitions and rigid ideals. Just watch, Mom, I whispered. They're about to learn what real success looks like. 1 week later, I settled into what had always been my true home, a sprawling Soho penthouse no Caldwell had ever set foot in. From my floor-to-ceiling windows, Bryant Tower pierced the Manhattan skyline, its mirrored panels glinting like a trophy in the sun. The REIT accepted our offer, Nora said during our 8 a.m. briefing. Her tone was calm, professional, but I caught the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. $48 million. All cash. They're impressed by the expedited timeline. I nodded, watching the Caldwell Global Partners logo gleam from the tower's upper floors. In the structure? I asked. Bulletproof. Atlas Property Holdings is the buyer. No trace to Apex Analytics, or you personally. Perfect. My phone buzzed. Ethan. A smug text lit the screen. Hope you're loving your independent life. Dad's ecstatic. Just announced Caldwell Global is expanding, taking 2 more floors at Bryant Tower. I laughed softly. Expansion plans. In a building they wouldn't control much longer. Miss Hartwell, my CFO David appeared in the doorway of the glass-walled conference room. The lease analysis is ready. Inside, my executive team waited, people I trusted with billions, not because of family ties, but because of their brilliance. The screen glowed with a breakdown of Caldwell Global's contract. Lease expires in 90 days, David said crisply. They've held this property for so long, relocations never crossed their minds. 3 months. 90 days until the empire that dismissed me stood at my door, requesting terms. But I closed the file slowly, savoring the irony. They'd thrown me out to preserve their pride. Soon they'd walk into their own headquarters and answer to me. And I'd smile, quietly. They've been telling investors their prime Midtown address is a cornerstone of their identity, Nora said, sliding a document across the conference table. Perfect, I replied, pulling up our renovation renderings. Begin the notification process. Make it official. Later that afternoon, as I scanned the final acquisition papers, my phone lit up. Lydia. I considered ignoring it, then answered. Hello? Vanessa, her voice dripped with saccharine sweetness, every syllable honed like a blade. We haven't heard from you since you left. Your father and I were talking. Perhaps you'd like to come back. To Caldwell Global. There's an entry-level opening. Ethan could put in a good word. I almost laughed. No, thank you. I'm doing quite well with my own company. A sharp exhale. Still chasing that little tech fantasy? Honestly, Vanessa, it's time to grow up. Do you know how humiliating it is when people ask about you? I imagine you'll find out soon enough, I murmured. What was that? Nothing, I said smoothly. I have to go. Business calls. The next morning, Caldwell Global Partners received their notice. Bryant Tower has been sold. All existing leases will be subject to review. I watched through security feeds as the courier delivered the envelope to my father's glass-walled office. His face flushed crimson. He barked for an emergency meeting, slamming the notice onto the table. Nora, I said through the intercom, my tone crisp. Schedule a meeting with Caldwell Global's executive team. Time to introduce ourselves as their new landlords. Understood, she replied. Should I prepare lease termination documents? Yes, I said. And make sure the conference room overlooks their offices. I want them to see exactly what's at stake. That afternoon, I monitored the surveillance feed as chaos unfolded at Caldwell Global. This location defines our brand, my father thundered, pacing like a caged bull. We cannot relocate. Clients expect this address. Ethan's voice slid in, smooth and smug. Can't we just negotiate with the new owners? Atlas Holdings won't take our calls, an executive stammered. All we know is they've requested a meeting next week. If only they knew the woman orchestrating their panic sat just blocks away, an empire they dismissed as a hobby, now dictating their future. What would happen in that meeting would be whispered through boardrooms for years, but before that I had one last card to play. On the day of reckoning, I stood behind tinted glass, watching through live feeds as Caldwell Global's senior team filed into Atlas Holdings' grand conference suite. Every detail was deliberate, mahogany table gleaming, skyline view framing Manhattan's towers like silent witnesses. My father entered last, shoulders taut, arrogance diluted by unease. Ethan hovered at his side, whispering urgently. Papers shuffled, chairs scraped, a room full of power players bracing for a verdict they couldn't imagine. And me? I adjusted my silk blazer, smoothed my notes, and stepped into the corridor. It was time for the reveal. If you're ready to see what happens when the unsuccessful daughter walks into that boardroom and changes everything, make sure you hit subscribe, because the next chapter will leave you speechless. Ethan entered first, carrying a sleek leather portfolio, probably filled with last-minute counteroffers. Lydia followed, diamonds flashing under the fluorescent lights, her posture radiating entitlement. She was here for one reason: to charm the new owners into leniency. Atlas Holdings representatives will be here shortly, Nora announced, her tone polite yet distant as she poured coffee with the same professional courtesy she extended to everyone. At exactly 10 o'clock IMM, the private elevator chimed. I stepped out, dressed in a tailored black Armani suit, my heels clicking softly against the marble. My executive team flanked me, tablets in hand, each one preloaded with projections and lease restructuring plans. The moment I entered the conference room, the color drained from my father's face. Ethan froze mid-sentence, and Lydia's polished composure fractured like brittle glass. "Hello, Father," I said, voice calm, controlled. I slid into the chair at the head of the table, the position that had once been his domain. "Surprised to see your unsuccessful daughter?" "Vanessa," his voice cracked. "What is this? What are you doing here?" "I'm here representing Atlas Holdings," I replied smoothly, unlocking my tablet. "Or rather, Apex Analytics. Atlas is one of our subsidiaries. We recently purchased Bryant Tower. 48 million, all cash." "That's impossible," Ethan burst out, face flushing crimson. "You work from home, you're nobody." Before I could answer, Nora stepped forward, distributing folders with meticulous precision. "Ms. Vanessa Hartwell is the founder and CEO of Apex Analytics," she said, her tone icy. "A global leader in AI-driven real estate forecasting. Current valuation, $2.3 billion, 0 cents. Our platform has transformed investment markets across North America." Lydia's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she flipped through press clippings and financial reports chronicling my rise, the empire I built, while they dismissed me as a failure. "Now," I continued, meeting my father's stunned gaze, "about your lease. It expires in 90 days. We won't be renewing it." "You can't do this," he roared, pounding the table. "This building defines Caldwell Global's identity. Just like being successful defined your family's," I countered coolly. "Funny how definitions change." "We'll pay double the rent," Ethan blurted, desperation bleeding into his voice. "This isn't about money," I said, leaning forward. "It's about perspective. While you were mocking my little online project, I was building technology that rewrote an industry. While you were ashamed of me working from home, I was negotiating global acquisitions." Lydia's voice cracked like fragile glass. "But where will we go?" I smiled slowly and swiped to another document on my screen. "Apex owns multiple properties. There's a shared office space in the financial district, second floor, great natural light." My father's face purpled, veins rising along his temple. "The second floor? We are Caldwell Global. You need humility," I cut in sharply, rising to my full height. "Consider this: a lesson in recognizing real success when it's standing right in front of you. Just like I learned the day you threw me out for not meeting your definition of success." I rose slowly, gathering my notes with deliberate calm. "You have 3 months to vacate. Atlas Holdings will assist with relocation if you choose to accept the offer. If not..." I paused, letting the weight of my next words settle. Commercial real estate in Manhattan is competitive these days. I turned toward the door. "Vanessa, wait." Ethan's voice cracked, his polished confidence finally fraying. "We're family." I stopped, my hand on the sleek brass handle, and looked back. Family supports one another. Family sees potential, not just appearances. You stopped being family when you decided I was an embarrassment. Silence blanketed the room as I walked out, heels echoing against marble like a quiet verdict. That evening, the city glowed like molten gold beyond the glass walls of my penthouse office. From this height, Bryant Tower stood proud, my tower now, cutting into the Manhattan skyline. Nora entered, carrying a bottle of Dom Perignon and 2 crystal flutes. "Congratulations," she said, her smile laced with triumph. "Your father's been calling all day. He's offered to make you a partner at Caldwell Global." I laughed, the sound low and sharp. "Tell him I'm not interested in partnering with a second-floor company." 3 months later, I watched from my private terrace as moving trucks lined the curb outside Bryant Tower. The Caldwell Global logo, a gleaming badge of their legacy, was stripped from the facade. In its place rose the emblem of Apex Analytics, a soaring silver phoenix catching the first light of dawn. My phone buzzed, a text. "Dad, I was wrong. You're not an embarrassment. You're brilliant. Can we talk?" I stared at the message, a mix of irony and closure washing over me. My fingers hovered before I typed back, "My assistant will schedule you in. I have an opening next month, top floor." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't rage or retaliation. It's elevation, proving that success wears many faces, and the daughter they dismissed now towers above them, literally and figuratively. I set my phone down and stepped closer to the glass. Below, the city pulsed with life, oblivious to the quiet war that had just ended. I'd built my empire from whispered doubts, from laughter behind closed doors, from every cruel word that told me I wasn't enough. Now, my reflection merged with the skyline, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself a smile. Not for the victory alone, but for the lesson etched in steel and glass. They measured success by the height of their name on a building. I measured it by how high I could rise when no one believed I could. And this was only the beginning. When I walked into that boardroom, I wasn't just claiming a building. I was reclaiming every piece of confidence they tried to strip from me. And now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have renewed their lease or shown them the door like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one because your voice matters in this conversation. If you've ever been told you're not enough, that your dreams are unrealistic, that your success has to fit into someone else's definition, this story is for you. Remember this: their doubts are not your destiny. You don't owe anyone the version of success they expect. You owe yourself the life that makes you proud when you look in the mirror. Here's my advice. Don't wait for validation. Build quietly if you have to. Let your results speak in rooms you were once shut out of. And when you get there, walk in with your head high, not for revenge, but to prove to yourself that you were always capable. If this resonated with you, subscribe now because the next part of my journey will show you what happens when the underestimated become unstoppable. And share your story in the comments. I want to celebrate your wins, your lessons, and your fight to define success on your terms. Because if my story teaches anything, it's this: the world will try to measure you by their yardstick. Break it, build your own, and then rise quietly, powerfully, unapologetically.